Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss. Meatball is just off to one side here, so she's a good chance she might pop over. I am doing this video because, again, I just done another video, which I'll probably end up posting after this one in the end. This seems to be happening to me a lot lately, where I do some video that's about, a kind of instructional topic. I'm getting ready to post it, and then I notice that there's some news that is or something trending. I better do a video about this. So it's the second time in a row this has happened. And once again, it's about Kyle Brink, because you might remember Kyle Brink. He's the executive producer of Wizards of the Coast, incredibly still the executive producer at Wizards of the Coast, which is the number 2 position in Wizards, and it makes him the head of all of Dungeons and Dragons. And he's the guy that, if you watch my earlier video about Kyle Brink, went on an interview, and in that interview he said that for a long time the entire hobby has been based around white guys playing in basements, and that guys like himself, white guys like himself, cannot leave this hobby soon enough. Cannot leave soon enough for this hobby, rather. That's the quote. So some people have interpreted that to mean, because, for no really good reason, except that slightly earlier in the interview, he was talking about corporate, diversity. They interpret that meaning that, no, just white guys shouldn't be allowed to make D&D anymore, but they can still play it. And then other people have interpreted that to mean that, no, he just wants all white guys out of the hobby, except apparently himself, because he hasn't resigned from Wizards of the Coast yet. And Wizards of the Coast supports his ideas because they haven't fired him yet. But now he's instead gone and done another bonehead move in a different interview. He's the guy, I'm suspecting that actually Wizards has him set up as a patsy. I mean, I'm starting to think that they said, okay, you know what? You screwed everything up here. Or maybe they said that to what's her name, to Williams. And she's now passing the buck down to Kyle. She says, no, this is what we're going to do. Because if I don't want to resign, so I'm going to make them fire you. You're going to have to go out and do all these interviews. And in all these interviews, you're going to have to act like a complete ass. You're going to have to say some things that are just going to make people despise you. And then we're going to fire you and say that we fixed the problem. So I'm half suspecting it's that at this point. Because here Kyle Brinks goes in another video and another interview, and he says that Dungeons and Dragons, that the Wizards of the Coast, D&D, is never going to put out another Dark Sun book. And because Dark Sun has many elements that are problematic. Yeah. So that's his deal. Apparently, white guys can't leave soon enough for the hobby is not problematic, but Dark Sun is problematic. Now, I'm not a gigantic Dark Sun fan. If I was, though, I'd be cheering right now. I'd be peeing my pants with joy over the fact that I've gotten a promise from a Hasbro Wizards executive that they're not going to do any more Dark Sun books. Because I would know that anything that they made for this would be complete garbage. It would be absolute trash as a product. Just like Dragonlance has been, just like everything they've recently done for the Forgotten Realms has been, just like Ravenloft has been, just like Spelljammer has been. This is a group, the people that are the creative part of D&D in Wizards of the Coast are a faction of people that have no talent, most of them have no experience, and most of them are deeply hostile to the content they are supposed to write for. Okay, so it's a guarantee that whatever product they end up making is going to be, at best, at absolute best, mediocre pablum. And that's million to one shot. You've won the lottery if it's just mediocre crap, right? More likely, it is going to be an intentional, hostile deconstruction of the thing you loved, right? It's going to turn it into nonsense. Like the Ravenloft book that essentially idolizes the dark powers and says that, there's no real good or evil, so whatever, dude, right? So suddenly everybody can start with the dark gift at the start of the at the start of the campaign, and it's cool. It's just another power you have, right? And bad guys aren't necessarily really bad guys, right? Except evil white men or something. Those guys are probably bad guys for real. But everybody else is just misunderstood, right? They're going to make trash. They don't know how to create anything. These people are just destroyers. They're not capable of making anything good. If you want a good product, you're going to have to look for something that is outside of their scope, outside of their reach. And that means it's going to have to be products that are like maybe inspired by these settings, but that are not these settings. And I can't even begin to speculate. What is it about Dark Sun that is problematic compared to other settings, right? I mean, okay, Dark Sun is a harsh and brutal world. When Dark Sun came out, let's remember, in the early 90s, it was left-wing. It was a left-wing product. It was this kind of eco-warrior nonsense product about how, it's a very clear ecological allegory warning us that if we don't stop polluting the world, then we're going to end up with this horrible planet, right? And that's the whole idea. The idea of Dark Sun is like the Forgotten Realms in the future if they, didn't stop using carbon emission spells or something like that, And so it was about that, it's like a world where there's no water, it's super hot because, global warming, right? And everybody's, become backwards and oppressed. And there's, it's basically too late in that setting at that point, that was its original intention. But I guess now that same construct that I remember when it came out, everybody was like, oh, this is eco-freak bullshit, you had instead this perspective that this game is deeply wrong. I guess because it has slaves in it, because, most of the city-states that are run by these clearly evil wizards that are servants of a giant evil dragon have most of their population enslaved. But, what's the problem with that? I kind of wonder, because, there is slavery in other games, in other settings of Wizards of the Coast. And I guess maybe in none of the other ones do they feature as prominently, right? But, there is the Against the Slavers module series. There's slavery in Farron. There's slavery in pretty much every setting. And in every setting that Wizards has ever done, or that D&D has ever done, let's say from the TSR era onwards, it's always been blatantly clear that slavery is treated as evil, right? As something that is wrong. Though in some societies in the game, they don't believe it is, right? But in real life societies, people don't believe in it. But I'm starting to suspect that maybe the real problem here is that it's now no longer correct to feature slavery unless it's racially connected. Because to suggest that people who aren't people of color could be slaves is now problematic, because it's probably a sign of white supremacy, right? It's cultural appropriation of the slave experience. How dare you suggest, sir, that anyone except people of color were ever slaves? Even though actually throughout history, every single culture had slavery. Everyone. They were all slavers at some point or another. And therefore, people of all cultures and colors were at some point slaves. Not all of them, but, there's a very good chance that everybody alive today is has at least one or two or probably 100 slaves in their genetic history if you go back far enough. Right? Some obviously maybe more recently than others, but that's not going to be that big of a gap in the bigger scheme of things, when you're talking about a history of 10,000 years. So, but that's the problematic thing, right? I think that that's the real issue, because, as if not, what do you do? What do the people at Wizards do if at this point in time where the totalitarianism and the manufacturing of history has become so enormous, right? When you can have a complete fabrication like the 1619 Project being put in schools and taught as if it was history. This is like Stalinist stuff here. They've just reinvented history, completely a bullshit version of history, and they're presenting it as fact, right? So like, what do you do when you're writing the new Wizards of the Coast Dark Sun book? Are you going to make it a book where, where only black-skinned people in Athos are slaves? Because that could be seen as very racist, right? But then, okay, what if you don't do that? What if you have like all kinds of people are slaves? Well, but then you have white people that are slaves in the setting. And you can't have that, right? Because we all know that white people can only ever be slavers and never slaves. They can only ever be oppressors. Just like you can't be racist to a white person, right? Even in like videos where people are saying, we have to kill white people or something like that. That's not racist. That isn't racism, because you can't be racist against white people. Because racism has been redefined by the extremists, by these Stalinists, as being about power differential rather than the color of one's skin. Which is why, for example, you can also have black conservatives who are now white supremacists, even though they're black, because that's the new dynamic, right? And there's just too much in a presentation of something that is actually historically and contextually accurate. That there's too much there that breaks with the pseudo mythology of slavery that has been created by the CRT movement, for it to be able to match, right? For it to be able to fit in. And so, I'm guessing that is really the big issue for them, and that they can't figure out a way around that. But in any case, if you're a Dark Sun fan, don't be pissed off about this. Be happy. Be happy that they're not going to destroy your product. Why do you people keep asking Wizards to make these revivals when you know that in every single case, they're going to be Last Jediing it? They're going to be ruining it. They've done it with every product. So stop trying to think that just because it's going to have the name on the cover, that makes it good. No, that means that they have murdered the thing you love and are wearing it as a skin suit in order to steal your money from you. And you're going for it, so that they can then use that money to try to drive you out of the hobby. So stop it, right? Stop supporting that. There are, I'm sure, products out that are shout-outs to Dark Sun. In fact, in World of the Last Sun, the setting that I affectionately named the shithole, which is one of the entire chapters of the book, it's a major section, is an homage. It has a bunch of random tables that are meant to be played in this kind of desert-like, post-apocalyptic, extremely tough environment. That is a wasteland, basically, right? So, you could check that out. Feel free to. So go looking for something or make something for yourself, but don't expect Hasbro to make something good. Be happy that their ridiculous political dilemma doesn't let them ruin your product. I guess that's it. That's the message I have for you, right? That, and again, apparently Wizards agrees with Kyle Brink that it would be that, Dark Sun is racist or whatever, and also agrees with Kyle Brink that white people should be driven out of the hobby, because otherwise he wouldn't be still working for them. Until such time as they fire him, it's very clear that they are giving him support for his views. So I would suggest you don't just not buy, Dark Sun, but you don't buy any Wizards products anymore, because it is very clear that they are openly hostile to the fandom. They despise you, and frankly, I would say this is not just a message to white gamers, right? This is a message to all gamers, because that's really what they're saying. They just have this to create this fantasy. They made this fantasy. They said it they've said it over and over again that in the old days it was all white guys. That's not true. It was never true, right? So when they now say we want the old white guys to leave the hobby, they're actually saying we want all real gamers to leave the hobby. That's what they're really saying. So it doesn't matter if you're Latino like I am, or Asian or black or whatever, Native American, Samoan, whatever. If you're a gamer and you're like a regular guy playing RPGs, you are the one that they want, that cannot leave soon enough for the hobby in their minds. That you're the one that they're hunting for. Because again, racism is no longer about race. It's about an ideological agenda. So it doesn't matter what your skin color is. If you like normal D&D, if you're a normal person, a normal human being who likes normal things, then you are a white supremacist to them, right? And they want you out. So don't be confused. Don't make the error of assumption that they're just trying to drive out white-skinned Caucasian Northern European people from the game. They're not. They're trying to drive every normie out from the game. Every normal gamer, every average guy that likes playing D&D. That's the person that they're trying to drive away from the game. So if you are one of those people, do not give them your money. Dedicate yourself instead to things like the OSR, where you're going to find tons of games that are all written much better. I mean, even Venger. I mean, look at Venger's products, right? They're wacky, but there's a level of quality in Chalt that vastly surpasses anything that has come out by Wizards of the Coast since the last time I was in a credits of a Wizards of the Coast book. So everything from that point onwards that has been produced by Wizards does not live up to Chalt, to say nothing of my products, So check out all the OSR. There's tons of great stuff from me, from Venger, from the Red Room, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, Old School Essentials, Castles and Crusades, all of this stuff that you're going to be able to find and play and enjoy. Check those out because they're going to be so much better for you. And again, if you want something that you can have a Dark Sun-like experience, well, check out in World of the Last Sun. I've got an entire chapter dedicated to the shithole, and it is great. So, it's a place my players have frequently gone back to over the years. In the 10 years, this is, by the way, it's been the 10th anniversary of my original Last Sun campaign, and we're still playing it. That's how much fun that book is. And check out the Gonzo Fantasy Companion. It's got tons of tables that you can use, weird science tables, mutations, random new humanoid races, intelligent animals, all sorts of stuff that you can use for a weird fantasy game. Because for a lot of people also, Dark Sun, there are people that liked it because it was kind of grimdark. There are also people that liked it because it was weird and different, right? And so if that's the sort of thing that you like, check out the Gonzo Fantasy Companion, check out World of the Last Sun. If you like conventional medieval authentic fantasy, check out Lion and Dragon and Sword and Caravan. If you want modern, check out Invisible College. If you want sci-fi, check out Star Adventure, and check out my entire RPG Pundit Presents series, including the Old School Companion 1 and 2. All of those are enormous resources for you and your gaming, and you're going to enjoy yourself way more, dedicating yourself to stuff in the OSR than worrying about trying to get a product that has the word Dark Sun on it, but that is actually an insult to everything you ever liked about it. Share the video. Currently smoking Stanwell Deluxe plus our Argento Natural.